I played any rock and roll, but there was a guy named Pigpen who had a blues band. And it turns out, I just found out last week, that was Jerry's first band. He played bass for Pigpen. And that's where he learned all that, the R&B stuff. He was Pigpen's bass player. I didn't know that, but then, of course, they became the Warlocks and whatever. But the question was, what?
Did Bill know he wanted?
No, Jerry went down, along with some other Bay Area people, down to one of those gigs where Bill Keith and Del McCurry were in Monroe's band, and they went to the show. But it's with bluegrass people who will drive 1,000 miles to hear themselves play. Jerry and those guys all had their instruments, right? And they're all sleeping in their cars or whatever, and they went to McCabe's, and you used to, part of the mentality was if they hear you picking, they might just say, oh, come on in, you don't have to buy a ticket because you're a musician. I've often carried an empty guitar case through the thing was, Jerry was picking in the hallway. And I'll tell you two things. One is what Bill Monroe says. He went up to Jerry and he said, now you ought to, if you come out our way, you ought to audition for me to be a bluegrass boy. So it was Bill's invitation. It wasn't Jerry like dreaming it up, but I know Jerry must have wrestled with it, because when they drove out across the country, you'd drive through the South, man, everything was segregated. And he was, a wide open guy from the San Francisco area, living in Palo Alto, and of course the brains that were out there at the time were these, the West Coast has always been kind of the left coast of, more radical thinking. And something I didn't realize, and there's a book about it, how many underground newspapers there were in San Francisco. Hundreds. It was a free press town. And then they had finally the Berkeley Oracle, which you couldn't read, because it was printed by people on acid. And they were going like, oh, I think this pink against the blue will look great. And then you open it up and it's like, you can't make heads or tails over it. It's just sort of these designs, something like words all blending into each other. But so when the story from Sandy that's drifted down in these few months since the opening is, they got to Bean Blossom. They made the trip all the way back east, played in coffee houses with friends in college. Everybody, we all had college friends, and a few of us had decided, try it and go for it, But most of our friends were in school, and so Sandy and Jerry just went from college campus to college campus, stayed in the dorm, slept on the floor, played in the club, moved on, and it was like, there was a map of the world drawn at that time by the man who makes these beautiful capos, Rick Show. He drew a map of the world. And there are two major countries, Berkeley and Cambridge. And that's really how it was. People were going back and forth all the time. Hitchhiking, you could get there in 4 days. You could drive it in 3 if you never slept. You had one person driving, the other person lay in the back, and in those days, you'd get a water bag. You get this burlap water bag that the water seeped out through the burlap, and you hang it over your radiator so it would overheat in the desert, And now the second thing I wanted to say, and this is a little bit weird, but I'll tell you anyway, that somebody said they were there when Bill heard Jerry in the hallway at the Ash Grove, and then within Jerry's hearing, somebody said, that Mexican kid picks pretty good. Right? Jerry Garcia. And so I think looking at the balance, standing there, and you can see these two guys leaning on their guitar cases at Bean Blossom while, and they've been through all this like segregated Southern, colors, whites only. And You see Jerry sort of weighing in his mind, you know, Palo Alto or Bean Blossom?
Let's start right here.
Yeah, I recently heard somebody say that John Conn was an underrated bass player. I think so. So, what was it like to play with Conn?
Well, the thing about John was he played in time, and his notes were true. He was an acoustic bass player in Old in the Way. He played electric with Jerry and his outfits. And, you know, when you start a project, it was like, oh, here, John, you should listen to this, Bill Monroe and Flat and Scruggs in the early. Well, a lot of Bill Monroe and Flat and Scruggs in the early days had a lot of boogie-woogie bass, walking bass, which came from jazz. And so John picked up on that right away. So what you would get was like, you know, in the verse of a song, you know. Solo would be, he'd be doing that under the solo, which was really, and should be still, I must say, a cornerstone of bluegrass, is the movement of the bass. There was this thing that happened in the 80s when everybody started using these home recording studios and click tracks, and it was all like, don't play any runs. You know, no second notes. You just, everything had to be like perfect time, and it kind of retarded bluegrass. Because the movement of the bass is so important, and John Conn understood that. So
on the same line, I wondered what it was like playing with Vassar for being bass.
well, you know, we had been driving. Here I go again. But long story short, we've been driving back from Monroe, Louisiana, on the same night that we had driven from Nashville to play it. But it was 8 hours, you know, so 8 hours down, play the show. Now we're going back. And Rowan Yarbrough, who was a banjo player, a longtime friend of Bill's, and would play with Bill for some years, he said, why don't you boys come over for breakfast? Well, for bluegrass people, breakfast means 2 o'clock in the morning. And somebody, of course, usually the lady of the house is going to be cooking the grits, and it's bluegrass tradition. You know, when they say come for breakfast, they don't mean 10 in the morning. It means 1 in the morning. So we were having breakfast, and they were playing, and Earl was playing me a tape from the New Year's party he had had that year. And there was this fiddling on it that was just scandalous, you know, it was like so in tune and so beautiful. It was like the best of Scotty Stoneman and the best of Chubby Wives, you know, but with a little something else. And Bill Monroe had been a bluegrass boy when he was 16, and he had cut the new Mule Skinner blues.
The Vassar.
What did I say?
Bill Monroe.
Oh, yeah, so Bill Monroe did the new blues in Kentucky, the new Mule Skinner blues with Vassar. And then he went through and you know about this, that the whole fiddle hierarchy of Nashville, you might go from Bill Monroe to Hank Snow, who might pay a little more, and then you might go over to, Hank and, several bands needed fiddlers. But the highest gig you could get was to go out to Las Vegas and play for the Judy Lynn show. And they had like 5 fiddlers. But once you joined up there, you had a place to stay, and it was 7 nights a week music. And Judy Lynn was a good band leader, and it was a Western swing band. And so Vassar had completed his course in professional fiddle playing, and it was now free. He didn't care. You know, he had nothing to prove. And he was just exploring jazz and all just kinds of things. So I'd heard this tape, and I had asked Rule for Vassar's number. This was 64, 65. 65. So I sitting around with Jeremy and David, and we're going, well, first of all, I was like, we got gigs, we need to call ourselves something. Right? And we're like, yeah, what should we be? And Jerry goes, we're old and in a way. That's how it came out of Jerry. And and then, so we're standing around, and we've been booked in Boston on a tour, 3-day tour, the only out-of-state tour we ever did. And because Jerry was allergic to these outdoor venues, you know, back in those days too. It was really outdoors, you know, because you sit in a blanket on the ground and pine needles or whatever. And Jerry had allergies. So one thing that we noticed playing those bluegrass festivals was not only could he not come out and have fun with us jamming, you know, you see everybody, you see John Hartford, you see Sam Bush, you play on some side stage. And Jerry couldn't do that because there were just too many people who wanted to get a piece of it. So, the question again?
Playing the past.
Oh, so we're ready to go on this tour, and I was like, who can we get for fiddle? We had Richard Green, he had played, John Hartford had played fiddle with us. And in one of those endless epic local tours we did, you know, Jerry being so effusive musically. And I said, wait a minute, so this is 5 years later, I reach in my pocket, I still got that wallet, amazingly. I look in there, and there's this number in pencil, Vassar. So I called him up. The Vassar, my name is Peter. I know who you are, Peter. Really? Wow. And I said, well, we have a little band we put together, and we're going to do a tour with Jerry Garcia and Dave Grisman. He said, send me a ticket. That was it. And he'd be in San Francisco, we go riding by Tower Records, and there'd be a big poster of the Grateful Dead. And Vassar would always go, oh, Jerry, look there, there's someone look just like you.
We got time for maybe one more. Over here.
So I have to ask a real quick question. Thank you, Red, for being here. Longtime fan and other stuff. You just mentioned John Hartford played in Old and the Way.
Yeah.
Are you confirming that? That's like an internet debate.
Are you saying, did I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is
No,
it-
he did. He was in town. And in some accounts, he played several shows with us, but
You don't know personally.
they say if you can remember the 60s, you weren't there.
Second question is, can you talk a little bit about your interactions with Jerry after Old and the Way? Maybe some memories or any of those types of things.
I can't really.
I think we're over time. We've never done that before.